digital innovation, the Venwiz advantage. For this, I would like to call Mr. Rajesh Reddy, co-founder and CEO Venwiz. With a distinguished background from IIT Madras and ISB, Mr. Rajesh has held key roles in organizations like Bounce, ITC, Capillary Technologies, Adani Group, McKinsey Company, spanning strategy, consulting, and engineering. At Venwiz, he is pioneering solutions to tackle legacy challenges in CapEx procurement, building India's only platform for this space. Can we have a huge round of applause for Mr. Rajesh Reddy?
Before we go to the first slide. Yeah, I would like to know how many are from the manufacturing or industrial space? EPC, industrial. Okay, actually large number of audience. It's a great thing. Okay, we are a startup. We are a 4-year-old startup. Prior to starting this, we have been in this space. Me and my co-founder and a lot of my team members have been in the projects and projects procurement space. It's either setting up new plants or expanding in the same location. And the problems we have faced in terms of engaging with good number of project vendors, be it civil, mechanical, electrical, any kind of engineering vendors, right? That's the problem we wanted to solve for. And we've very quickly realized that you need a good scale of digital technology and platform to understand who are the right vendors to engage with in a fast-paced projects organization or a projects procurement organization. And that's how the genesis of Venwiz happened. Venwiz, the name is short form for vendor wizard, right? That's how the nomenclature happened. And while I go through the presentation, it's pretty, so unlike all other platforms we have spoken through the day, we are focused on the CapEx and projects procurement space only. So would be really great to meet all the folks who look at that particular aspect through the day. We have a booth in the event today, right? Let's start, yeah. Right, imagine that you are setting up a new plant. In this case, I had written, say, a specialty chemicals company. It can be a, say, oil and gas company doing any kind of expansion, or a FMCG company setting up a new plant, right? Any kind of scenario where you are setting up a new plant, right? And what happens usually is, the first thing is the management team or the board approves a certain budget for that, so that approval happens. Then you have a large projects organization, projects plus projects procurement organization set for executing that project. And then you also have certain tools. In this case, I'm mentioning MS projects. It could be other tools where you're tracking the progress of the project. You initiate an overall plan. You have, say, a Gantt chart like this, and you're tracking the progress of this, right? In the midst of all this, what we strongly believe is the intersection of projects and projects procurement plays a major role in how the final outcome of a project will be, right? And we as an organization are solving problems specific to that, and it starts with the vendor discovery, right? We'll look at what all additional things which we do as an organization, but that intersection of the projects and projects procurement team is where we play. And the problem, yeah, next slide, right? If you look at the traditional approach, right, what we believe is there are significant number of problems which both the teams get entangled, and there are a lot of conversations, inefficiencies which happen while these engagements happen, right? What we as Venwiz approach as a digital platform in this space, what we look at is we break it into 3 to 4 stages. The 3 stages which you are looking at are the vendor scouting is the first step. Once you have an RFQ and there is clarity on what particular task is to be done, the first stage is of the vendor scouting phase. The second one is being able to understand deeply about this vendor base, and then look at how you are able to assess this vendor base. Like in any kind of engineering task, you are looking at which vendor is superior on what parameters, and then how do I compare it with the existing pool, how do I compare them with the newer pool, etc. All of that falls in the vendor assessment and selection phase. And the next one is being able to track progress at the like a vendor-to-vendor engagement level. We are not looking at the overall project level, but the vendor-to-vendor engagement level, how you are tracking that particular job, right? And what we do is we are helping the teams, both the project procurement team as well as the projects team, to accelerate decisions at multiple stages so that you are able to eventually have a faster project execution. And from the initial research we have done in the market and the number of projects we have seen through over the last 4 years, we have seen significant time saving, bandwidth saving across clients when they use modern means to find, discover, engage with vendors, right? And overall execution timelines, we believe, will cross 20% or it could be more based on the type of projects, right? And overall, it will make the project's organization efficient, right? And it's been a Venwiz promise to all of our clients who have been engaged with us, and it happens at a project level, it happens at a central level, handling multiple projects at the same time, and so on, okay? Right? And like I said, we are looking at the 3 broad phases. Say you are looking at the RFQ stage, the vendor sourcing and assessment stage, and you are also looking at the final comparison and then final selection phase, right? In all of these, every stage, how a platform could help. It can be Venwiz, it can be anybody, but looking at in the RFQ stage, you can look at all vendors being able to understand what's the final version of the RFQ they need to respond to, right? Getting all of them onto the same plane at the fastest, right? That enables the vendors to respond to a particular project manager or procurement manager's queries faster and respond with a technical and commercial quotation, right? So that's something which we optimize for, and you definitely save man hours and bandwidth of your team to make that happen, right? So that's one of the steps. The next one is where the maximum, I would say, bang for the buck happens, where vendor scouting or scanning the market for the right pool of vendors for every RFQ at hand or every job at hand is, I would actually say, manually impossible, because you wouldn't know the kind of vendors available in the market. And if you get into the space of, say, job sizes which are less than 100 crore or a 40, 50 crore or 10, 20 crore, like less than 50 crore kind of size, you are looking at a very heavily fragmented supplier base. For every region, you have, say, at least 50, if not hundreds of options. Now, how do I look at all of them and then decide who is the best suited vendor for me and who is available at this point in time, right? And hence, he's coming up with the best offer for you as an organization and for that particular project, right? All of that can happen only if you are able to scan that in a record time. If the record time is 2 days or 2 hours, etc., all of that can happen only through a digital means. And we have built a platform which is a combination of AI plus our own internal proprietary software, which gets you the mix of vendors for every RFQ. Okay, and subsequent to that is the steps which companies have to follow with respect to receiving the quotations, doing the comparison of the vendors at a technical level and also at the commercial level. And you are going to see all of these steps happen in a very fast pace because it's happening through a tool. And today the tools are only increasing, right? If we actually, because we are working on the existing AI tools to get incorporated into what we are building at Venwiz, the tools are improving very, very fast, right? And I would still say, like, today we are still at a 50-60% accuracy or efficiency level with respect to how AI is able to help engineering kind of problems to get solved, the industrial engineering problems. But we strongly believe within like few months and a year, maybe that will become 70-80%, and companies like yours can enjoy the benefits of such tools, and even we as a platform could benefit from that, right? But this is constantly improving with time. From the time we started in 2020 to now, it's a huge leap. And we are very sure 25, 26, it is going to be much, much more superior, right? Okay. Right, we'll give you a glimpse of how it happens, right? So the first stage, yeah, Bodhi. First stage is the RFQ finalization and the PQR creation. It's not running. So once it starts, but the thing is, like each step will happen the way it is supposed to happen. Like if I go back to my project manager role when I was handling projects in my previous roles, always we say that once your RFQ is clear, ensure that you are making the right pool of vendors to begin with, where they qualify for all the PQR which you have written, and then you share the RFQs with them, ensure that they understand the critical aspects of the RFQ, and then you want the vendors to respond once they are also clear on that. So those are all the steps which happen through the process. We are just waiting for the video, but those are the steps which happen, and that's the aspect we are saying happens through in an efficient manner because there is a significant aid from the technology layer which we have built. Just a second. How many of you all have heard about Venwiz before? I'm assuming very few. So thankfully, today is a good day then. At least you heard about Venwiz today. Right? And we are proud of this ecosystem, right? And first, like today, the first company which spoke about, started the event was Moglix, which was a startup like ours, say 8-9 years ago. And today they are at a scale where they're able to influence procurement in large enterprises. And we are 4 years into this journey. We get inspired by all these like senior companies, which we can say, and continue to learn and grow like them. Yeah. Right? So here you can see that first how an RFQ is given. This is the example of a water treatment plant. Like there are certain, you can continue. There are certain details which are given. Then they upload the RFQ document or the technical documents which are needed to execute that particular job. Then the system extracts the required information and gets stored in the form of a PQR, pre-qualifying requirements criteria. Then from the PQR, it actually draws down what are all the parameters which I need to use to find the vendors in the market, right? And these are all the sources which we use to scout in the market. Then once the vendor pool is ready, you are looking at how do I filter down from the vast number of vendors. So here, say 47 vendors had come. Now from that 47, how do I get to much more narrower and focused pool of vendors who are relevant for me? Then I would put stringent filters, get to certain pool, and among them again, the project manager and procurement team has the prerogative on whom to send the RFQ, right? Once you send the RFQ, that is when vendors respond to that. And once the vendors respond, we use our internal quote comparison tool. That's the tool which we have on the platform, which helps you do the comparison, which comes out automatically, reducing a lot of time with respect to procurement team or the projects team or anybody involved in making those laborious sheets, right? So that is something which the platform does. Right? Yeah. So this is the sequence of steps leading to the final answer. And what we are in between doing all of these steps, we are a SaaS-enabled marketplace. Go to the next slide. Right? So we are a SaaS-enabled marketplace, the digital platform sitting between the manufacturing or EPC companies who are the demand side looking to execute these jobs, and on the supply side are projects vendors, typically MSME engineering vendors, right? And we do all these three stages which we have spoken about: the discovery stage, the engagement through the vendor selection and assessment phase, and eventually the execution tracking phase, right? So if you have to remember Venwiz, we are a SaaS-enabled marketplace, software-enabled marketplace, playing the digital platform role between these two entities, doing business for projects and CapEx execution. Right? And over the last 4 years, I would say most of the business exposure happened in the last 1.5, 2 years, where over 1,500 crore plus jobs had been posted on the platform, and the companies have experienced seeing different pool of vendors and finding ways to execute better, right? And more than 45 to 50 plus different projects, like the number of clients would be around 25, 30. The number of projects they would have seen will be 50 plus. And we have over 30,000 plus vendors on our platform, but the platform's capability to assess the market is today we are able to scan over 15 lakh plus vendors in India, right? And as of today, we are pretty India focused in terms of the engineering vendor pool. So any project happening across the Indian geography, we will be a relevant partner for like your company, your projects team, right? And we have had very strong like customer evangelism and customer love. So we have put 2 examples of Atul in the specialty chemical space and Nestle in the FMCG space. And today we also work with a significantly good number of EPC players also, because they also have large number of projects going across India, right? And this is all the client base we work with. And categories, we have crossed over 60 plus engineering categories, and there are multiple subcategories of vendors. And you can see the strength of the vendor pool is in all the industry heavy zones, and the pool is constantly increasing. And we are also increasing the number of parameters, type of questions to be asked to the vendors when they need to qualify for the job. All of that is constantly improving. And the benefit of that is going to all the projects, procurement teams we are working with, right? Yeah, and this survey by McKinsey, and actually even Bain also had reinforced this. Literally more than 60% of projects face delays, and more than 80% of them nearly face budgetary changes or delays because of that, right? And we feel there needs to be certain focused players solving these problems, and Venwiz is rightly positioned to address those. Request you all, whoever is looking at projects and projects procurement, to definitely give Venwiz a try, right? Yeah. And I am reachable at rajesh@venwiz.com. We also have my team here, me and my co-founder is also here, Sandesh, and Mehul and Bodhi are also here. So during the course of the day, we have a booth outside, so we'll be happy to interact with a lot of you all. Yeah, any questions? And we have a minute or two. Can you just, yeah.
vendor discovery and vendor appointment is one part of the process.
Yes.
But what is more important as a buyer is to understand the past performance
Yes.
of the proposed vendor. Even though I have selected someone, and what is the past reputation of that particular supplier or the vendor in terms of a timely completion, with
Yes.
quality, and with the required resources. So, is there any mechanism inbuilt into your software to capture this also, so that at the time of source selection, your decision is more informed?
Yes, sure. You've disconnected. Oh. Okay. So with respect to intelligence on the vendor, right? So when we said the second section in what we have written is discovery, and the second part is vendor intelligence and assessment of the vendor, right? So we go very specific to the job. Like, for example, say you have around 10 crore worth of civil job to be done or a fabrication job to be done. So you are looking at a vendor pool who is relevant for that particular job, and you are looking at the past performance of these vendors for exactly this kind of job. And when we say past performance, we are looking at their data on like their GST data integrations with like, did they do this ticket size of job? Then the second thing is, are there clients who are able to give feedback for a similar scale of job? So that is something we built in as a process to qualify that vendor for the job, right? And the more bigger the job gets to, the qualifying criteria become more stringent. So that's part of the process. Thanks for asking that.
Rajesh sir, we have one more question.
Yeah, I have one question. Is this system is integrable to the existing ERP system of a company? Because, inquiries or the origination of the inquiries will happen from some ERP system. And finally, the purchase orders or something has to be flow to the ERP system. So in between, you're sending RFQ, making quotation, comparison, or technical evaluation, those processes are happening.
Yes.
So is it your system will be can be integrated with the existing ERP?
So as a tech platform and a tech startup, sir, we are definitely integratable to any kind of other tech platforms, right? Especially since we work with enterprise scale companies, they need a lot more time to assess at what scale we want to integrate, right? Say once you start working with us, say in 12 months, 18 months, you realize that we are able to run every month some 50 crore, 100 crore worth of business through the platform. Then internally the IT teams decide, okay, now we should integrate, right?
Okay.
So it's more a business decision than capability issue as of today.
Yeah, I have another doubt in my mind. So your core strength, what we are seeing is your, back-to-back hand with the supplier base.
Yes.
There are some pre-evaluations, etc. But normally in any organization, whether it is EPC or a fabrication company, people will have their own pre-approved vendor base.
Yes.
And, their strategic sale or somebody is separately working for vendor development, new vendor hunting, etc.
Yes.
And searching a new vendor base at RFQ stage, how it will be effective and helpful for the organization?
So when we start engaging with any of the clients which we have written here, it is always a fraction of the spend they start with. Say if a project has 100 crore worth of spend, they initially start looking at, okay, today I can clearly see 20 crore worth of spend is where I can directly take Venwiz help. Then once they start seeing value, that 20 keeps increasing.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's the nature.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So we have
Sure. I'm happy I'm getting time, but the organizers, yeah. Please. How? So as of today, we help with making the decision of vendor selection more and more at a higher confidence level. Say today, without technology, if the confidence level is at a 60%, 70%, the confidence level improves to say 90%, 95%. The next thing is we have an added service with respect to contract management, like engagement between the client and the vendor, but that is a very case-to-case basis, right? And we also have the project tracking part that will be applicable only for certain category of jobs. So today we do significant project tracking or expediting for chemical industry, where they place orders on 20, 30 vendors on a given day and expect all of them to supply their fabricated parts, say, 3 months later. So we help them digitally track where the jobs are, right? But with respect to complete control, I don't think we are rightly positioned, but we are looking at what ways and means we can build that.
Yeah, hello. So my question is that in the ecosystem, you have the suppliers also along with manufacturers. So how is your tool differentiating, like helping the suppliers, the SMEs, the MSMEs, from the current competitors you have in the landscape, like Ariba and all that? So how do you differentiate? Is it what are the differentiating points?
So one of the biggest differentiator is the type of vendors we are engaging with, because we are talking about project vendors or engineering focused vendors. These vendors are not becoming part of any other marketplace. For example, if Ariba or other marketplaces have vendors, they are more part suppliers or say standard serial number based product procurement parts, right? But the project vendors are not part of such marketplaces, and at the same time we help the vendors with very clear understanding of the RFQs, so that they are bidding for jobs only when they are relevant for them, right? And also today when you approach vendors, they are kind of becoming like RFQ response machines. So most of the MSMEs today talk about sending 10 quotations every day. They are not having a serious intent, or they don't know which job they should work on seriously. So we are helping them match the capability to the job. So only when that happens, we pursue the vendor and say, you should bid for this job, right? So that kind of helps the vendor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajesh Reddy, for an interactive session. And to do the honors, I would like to call Mr. Subodh Nagarsekar from Rentokil Initial to do the felicitation.